All right, welcome back to another episode of Retro Muscle. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. This is part 3 of the Mike Mentzer interview presented by Muscle Media 2000. Enjoy.
Mike had some pretty passionate thoughts about what a mistake this is. Mike, do you want to pick up there?
Yeah, just to reiterate, overtraining is a lot worse than just something kind of sort of negative. It's the worst training mistake you can make, and it means performing any more exercise than is required to stimulate an optimal increase in strength or size. Even one set beyond that which is required is bad for you, is a negative, and as bad as that is, 2 extra sets is more than twice as bad. And of course then 3 extra sets is more than 3 times as bad. One of my favorite analogies here is within getting a suntan. You'll get a suntan every time you go out into the intense August sun, so long as you don't overexpose yourself. What happens, Bill, when you expose your skin to even 1 minute more high-intensity ultraviolet sunlight in August than is required to get a suntan?
You burn.
You burn. What do you think might happen if you were to perform even 1 set more high-intensity exercise than is required to stimulate an increase in strength and size? You would overtrain. Overtraining is the equivalent of getting a sunburn. You have to understand that man, the human being, is a specific entity with specific characteristics and specific requirements, including specific training requirements. Science itself is an exact, specific discipline. A proper science of bodybuilding should tell the individual exactly, specifically what to do. What do the muscle magazines suggest most frequently? Everybody do 12 to 20 sets. That's not very exact. Is it 12 or is it 20? And if it's 12, who in the hell wants to do 20? Is it ever 9? Is it ever 14? I'm telling the listeners that theoretically and in practice, I have found that 1 set per exercise and no more than 2 sets per muscle is all that's required. Any more than that is overtraining. To the extent that you overtrain, you will hamper and possibly prevent the production of the increase that the workout stimulated. Enough on that.
Okay, so let's talk about this specifically, because this is something that is totally opposite of what most people have been led to believe for a long time. You're telling me that if I go to the gym and I do 1 set of squats, my legs are done.
Right.
What kind of set is that?
It's a failure. Now, see, you're a bit incredulous because you still have operative in your subconscious the almost childlike, overly simplistic notion that more is better. Wipe away. Pretend for a few minutes that you never read muscle magazines, that you never had the idea that more is better, which again is an aerobics training principle. Take a fresh, new, unobstructed look at this thing. The human being, again, is a specific entity with specific characteristics and specific requirements. One of his specific characteristics is that he has a specifically limited recovery ability or adaptive capacity. You don't want to use up any more of that than is minimally required to compensate for the merely exhaustive effects of the workout. You following me here?
Exactly.
The first thing the body does after a workout is not grow, but what? Recover.
Right.
Which is what I mean when I say compensate for the merely exhaustive effects of the workout. When you're done working out, dear listener, you don't feel the same way you did before the workout. You feel exhausted. Something was used up. The first thing the body will do after the workout is devote its energy and resources to putting back that which was used up. Compensate, in other words, for the exhaustive effects of the workout. That takes time and energy and resources. To the extent that you overtrain, more of that limited recovery ability is used to compensate for the merely exhaustive effects of the workout, leaving that much less left over for the production of growth, which takes place only secondarily. Is that clear?
Yeah. So why is it that...
See what I'm getting at when I'm...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I think the point that you made that people are really going to have to grab a hold of is just forget everything you learned.
Right.
If you're going to adopt...
Remember, muscle magazines are not sacred scripture. They're
Right.
not even science journals, but even if they were, you have to read critically.
Okay,
The
so...
idea that more is better only applies to money and pretty girls. And it does have a certain limited application to endurance training. And I emphasize limited application. Even with aerobics, you've got to be careful not to overtrain. But if your goal is to improve upon your endurance, which means your capacity for performing large volumes of work, then yes, I can see where you would want to use the more is better principle. If more were really better with bodybuilding, now listen to me here, this is a good one. If more was really better, lock onto those words. Grasp what I'm saying here. Look at the implicit logic. If more was really better, then for every hour that you train, the results would get better and better and better. So why not train all day long? Nobody does that. It's not because of the time factor either. There are bodybuilders who would be willing to train literally all day long. I would have 20 years ago, if I thought it would have gotten me somewhere. They recognize that there's a limiting factor. And again, it's not time. They have a vague sense that the body has a limited adaptive capacity or recovery ability. But they don't understand the idea of specificity. Again, man is a specific entity with specific characteristics and specific requirements. One of his specific characteristics that's relevant here, he has a strictly limited adaptive capacity or recovery ability. You don't want to use up even one scintilla more than is minimally required to compensate for the merely exhaustive effects of the workout, so that you have that much left over to provide for the production of growth.
So
remember, you don't grow during the workout.
Yeah, absolutely.
The workout merely serves as a trigger.
Now, I was talking to David Dirth a couple months ago, and he said that he and Aaron Baker had been trying this thing.
I had trained both of them.
Right, and they said that they were loving it. They
made the best progress of their life by far.
Right.
David Dirth was ecstatic when he was training. He was getting stronger and bigger literally every workout. Which brings up an interesting point, too. Most bodybuilders, those using what I now refer to as the blind, non-theoretical volume approach, using the idea more is better, have very diminished expectations, Bill. They have come to accept the notion that progress is something to be witnessed unpredictably in tiny dribbles every now and then, and mostly then. I know, because I had the same idea myself 20 years ago prior to meeting Arthur Jones. I was training 3 hours a day and making almost no progress. I thought that's the way it was supposed to be. That's not true. And this is one more very important thing I want to get across. One of those very crucial, important items, along with the idea of overtraining, is this notion about progress. Progress should not be witnessed unpredictably in tiny dribbles every 8 months or so. You should literally see progress every single set of every single exercise, every single workout. We're not in the dark ages, people. This is supposed to be an age of enlightenment. We've had philosophy and science. What's the purpose of a scientific theory? How can you ever come to critically analyze these different training theories unless you know what the definition of a theory is, which I'll give you right now. A theory is a set of non-contradictory abstract ideas, or as philosophers like to call them, principles, which purports to be either a correct description of reality or a guideline for successful action. One of my favorite analogies here, Bill, is with NASA, the Space Administration. Why has NASA been so spectacularly successful in sending men to the moon and bringing them back safely each time. Not because they kind of sort of know what they're doing. They understand the requirements of space travel down to the smallest detail. They understand, in other words, the theory of space travel. They implement the principles properly, and as a result, they've succeeded with all of their man-moon missions.
Mm-hmm.
I tell my clients, view each one of your workouts as a scientific mission of sorts, and fully expect to succeed with each one. There is a reason why muscles grow. The cause and effect relationship between intense exercise and muscular growth was established a long time ago. This knowledge is not sacrosanct. It's not something that just belongs to Mike Mentzer and Arthur Jones. It's been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Why is it so hidden, and why is it so
because
hard?
we, in fact, are living in a dark ages. We really are. Most people know nothing about logic or how to use it, how to use their critical faculties to come to understand different theories, sort out truth from falsehood. Most people are intellectually dependent. They're brought up in a given household. They're born into a given family by chance, into a given region by chance, into a given nation by chance. Uncritically, unquestionably, blindly, they accept the religion their family brings them up in. They accept their parents or their locale's political beliefs. They're intellectual dependents. They've never learned how to identify and evaluate the facts of reality. And this is seen in most bodybuilders. We are living in a militantly anti-rational culture where people are actively discouraged from thinking, passively accept, blindly, uncritically follow the group. Well, geez, if all those bodybuilders say it's true, how could they all be wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Let me remind you that for thousands of years, millions of people sincerely believed the earth was flat. That didn't mean it was true.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the vast majority of bodybuilders still use the blind, non-theoretical volume approach doesn't mean it's true or it's the best way to go.
Why are there examples of people who've succeeded using other approaches?
It depends. I'm glad you brought that up. It depends upon how you define success. You're making the mistake there, Bill, of citing the final result as indubitable proof of the superiority of a certain training method. I get this all the time, of course, and I love this one because I can answer the skeptics' questions, and I enjoy watching their faces when they finally come to accept the idea later on. Not because I want to be a big shot, because I like seeing people coming to recognize how great logic is in human life. You would have to go, the most typical example I get is with Arnold and Lee Haney. Mike Mentzer, how can you be so damn certain? How can you say that there's only one right way to train and you know it? When we have Arnold and Lee Haney over here training 2 to 4 hours, 6 days a week. Again, the mistake there is in citing the final result as indubitable proof of the superiority of a training method. You would have to go back through Arnold's and Lee's training career and calculate the thousands of wasted hours, training hours, during which they made little or no progress. You would scratch your head and ask yourself the question, didn't they have anything better to do? You would seriously question whether or not their achievement could rightly be termed success at all.
Mm-hmm.
When in fact, it's true, most bodybuilders really don't have anything better to do. A lot of them only feel comfortable in the gym. It's the one area in reality where very little is demanded intellectually. They feel at home. In other words, Bill, they've elevated a social need into a training method. I ain't joking.
That's true.
A little bit of reflection, and you know it's true.
It's true.
How many bodybuilders are given to sound rigorous, logical thought, meticulous reasoning? Absolutely none that I've come across except Dorian Yates. And he could do a hell of a lot better than he's been doing with it. Nobody wants to think. I ain't saying I'm the greatest at it, but I've been working at it a little bit at least, as you can hear.
Right. Huh. Well, so you're saying that they could have achieved the same end result by the other pathway, and
they would have developed, they would have achieved their ultimate development sooner. When I say ultimate, I mean the level they did achieve. They would have developed it, reached it sooner, or they would have gone further had they used the proper methodology. It's not true that all training theories have some merit or are of equal validity. You have to take this into account too, and a little reflection, I think you'll see I'm right. They also used a lot of steroids.
Right.
Bodybuilders who don't use steroids and train 2 to 4 hours, 6 days a week, very quickly give up in frustration.
Right.
They're not given an alternative. They think this is the only way to do it, and erroneously conclude in many cases that they have terrible genetics, or that they're hard gainers or no gainers. Make no mistake, Bill and listeners, more bodybuilders fail to achieve their goals than succeed. The people promulgating these ideas without realizing it are endangering the future of their own market. Without a doubt, more people give up than succeed. These people purveying nutritional supplements in muscle magazines are relying on the constant turnover, the new generation always coming in.
Right. Like a lot of the nutritional companies depend on they get a one-time purchase, and people figure it out and they don't come back.
Exactly.
So why don't they do more to protect? I mean, I guess Weider does allow you to share your ideas pretty freely in the magazine.
Well, he's been very good about that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why exactly. I've got a few ideas, but I'd rather not go into that.
Let me go into a little bit more about these sets. I'm curious because I'm going to work out in 2 hours. What is one of these sets like? Is it do you reduce the weight and keep going until you're just done, or do you just do one weight in one set to total failure, to where you literally...
We do one set to positive failure, and occasionally, randomly, add a forced rep and or a negative, but only randomly. Now, if you're incredulous, if you're skeptical that one set could possibly be enough, Bill, it's still the logical place to start. Remember, I said a proper science of bodybuilding should tell you exactly what to do, exactly the right number of sets. Let's say we don't know. We could do an experiment to find out. We could launch our experiment with an arbitrary number of sets, like 20, and that is arbitrary. Where in the hell did they ever get 20 sets in the first place? They just grabbed it blindly out of the cultural atmosphere. More is better. But if 20 sets doesn't work, and this is the problem with that approach, if 20 sets doesn't work, where do you go? Up to 21 or down to 19? You've got to keep in mind this. We're looking only for that amount which is required, the precise or least amount required to stimulate the increase. Okay? Now you got to keep that in mind to follow the logic here. I said that it's only logical to start with one set. We're looking for the least amount necessary to begin with, right?
Right.
If one set doesn't work, you can't go any lower to find the least amount necessary. You can't do 0 sets and have a workout. If one set doesn't work, Bill, then you've got a reason, a justification for going to 2. If 2 doesn't work, then you've got a reason for going to 3. If you're skeptical, dear listener, just think of it that way. You've got years ahead of you. Start out with 1 set per exercise. If it doesn't work, you can always go to 2. Keep in mind, we're looking only for that amount of exercise which is required.
Right. Minimum amount of exercise.
This is not an arbitrary approach. If you start out with 12 or 15 or 20, that's arbitrary. If it doesn't work, where do you go after that? It's not like I've got some weird emotional investment in the idea of 1. I'm looking for what works. I don't care about the past, tradition, dogma. I know that most people don't think. I never accepted, well, I did a long time ago, accept it uncritically. But my eyes were opened up by Arthur Jones when he said to me, most of what is published in all subjects is hogwash. And I studied that idea, and I saw that it was true in so very many areas. I saw that muscle magazines were not science journals.
Right. So
I'm not denigrating muscle magazines here, by the way. I think they do serve a useful purpose. But you've got to learn to read critically.
Oh yeah, no, I agree 100%. What about, let's say that I had the opportunity to work out with you. Have you trained me? I'm going to forget, my multi-set workouts. I go to the gym, I'm going to hit upper body, or how do I break the groups down? Do I work arms one workout, or shoulders, or?
I have my new clients start out on a Monday with chest and back.
Okay.
For their chest, they do one set of flat bench dumbbell flies or pec deck, followed immediately in pre-exhaustion superset fashion by a set of close grip incline presses, a total of 2 sets.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Very often after that superset, I'll have a new client ask me this question: Mike, why don't we do another set? My stock reply now, Bill, is this: if you can give me one good reason, not 2, just 1, why we should do another set, I'll consider it. Well, several years now, having trained over 400 people, not one single individual was able to give me one good reason why I should let them do another set. If I were, then they would be justified in asking to do another one after that. You see my point?
Yeah, I see your point.
We're looking for the precise amount required.
So what do you think of do you think those are the best exercises for the chest then?
Yep.
And that's flat dumbbell flies?
Flat bench dumbbell flies followed immediately by a set of close grip incline presses. By close grip, I mean closer than shoulder width. Contrary to popular belief, wide grip inclines and benches are not the best for pec development. Close grip is better. What should be wide are the elbows. The elbows should be flared back away from the torso towards the ears.
Okay, so that's one set. I jump from the fly. I go. What do? I go come in and warm up with some light dumbbells first?
Yeah. As far as warming up goes, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to issue a surefire universal warming up prescription, one that fits everybody. Warming up needs vary according to the individual's age, existing physical condition, and even the temperature of the gym.
Right.
Can affect warming up requirements. But there is a general principle which will help answer that question. By the way, my approach to all this is in terms of principles. I don't expect anybody to accept what I have to say as an arbitrary, out-of-context injunction just because I say it.
Mm-hmm.
If you learn to think in principles, you'll learn to think logically. Principles make thinking a lot easier. The general principle is this: you perform any amount of warming up which you believe is minimally required so that you can proceed to the intense portion of the workout secure in the knowledge you will not injure yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I see many bodybuilders come into the gym, Bill. They do 20 minutes on the Stairmaster. Then they spend 10 to 15 minutes stretching and an equal amount of time doing a light to moderate barbell warming up. They've already set up an overtraining situation by the time they commence the hard part of the workout. Remember, it's very easy to overtrain. Don't turn your warm-up into a workout.
Right. So what would be the minimum? I come in, maybe do some barbell bench presses, a couple sets of flies, and I'm ready to go.
I can barely hear you on that one.
Okay. What would I do? Let's say I wanted to come in and warm up the upper body before this chest workout. If I did a couple sets of barbell bench presses or one set of barbell bench press with 100 pounds.
I have found that usually one set of light to moderate bench presses, one set of light to moderate dumbbell flies is all you need.
Okay, a couple sets, get warmed up, and then I'm ready to pick up some heavy dumbbells. And what type of rep range should I be working for? 6 to 20 or?
I would recommend that you select a weight for each exercise that allows for the performance of approximately 6 to 10 reps in reasonably strict fashion.
Mm-hmm.
As you grow stronger find you're able to perform more than 10 reps, increase the weight by 10 to 20%, or any amount that you believe necessary so that you're forced back to the performance of approximately 6 to 10 again. Now, if in a given workout, let's say you're doing barbell curls, and by the third rep you clearly recognize that you're not going to get 6 to 10, you're only going to get 4 or 5. Don't stop and reload so that you can get 6 to 10. Get 4 or 5. Your next workout, you'll get 6 to 10. By the same token, in another workout, you're doing curls, and by the 8th rep, you clearly see that you're going to get 16 reps or so. Don't stop and reload. I don't want you doing even a half a set more than is required. The human being has a strictly limited recovery ability. Even a half a set more than is necessary can be a negative.
All right, everybody, let's pause it right there. I hope you enjoyed part 3 of the Mike Mentzer interview presented by Bill Phillips and Muscle Media 2000. Hopefully, I'll have part 4 up by next week. And the reason I say hopefully is because I've got a few different things I'm working on down the pipeline. One of them being the competition recap that you, the listeners, helped me pick out. And no, I'm not going to tell you which one just yet. But if you can't wait and you need more muscle in your life, you need more motivation, please check out my Instagram page at Retro Muscle Mags. Every day I post a new magazine, no duplicates, from every different generation. You name it, I've got it, most likely. And like I've said before, please like this video, share with your friends, subscribe to my channel. There is so much more to come. This is just the beginning, so stay tuned.